Pedro, today you're an author, you're a former executive, and someone who walked away also from very successful career, but also someone who chooses himself. Before we dive into this topic, how would you describe yourself? Who are you today?
Yeah, but I would say that today I'm a people who is trying to find his way in life. Uh, I have suffered a lot in the last years to be able to find a place where I'm happy and where I'm satisfied with the life, and I'm trying to find this place. I think that I have been made very important changes in my professional life in the last years. I decided to leave a kind of job that I didn't like it, like is working in a very big consultancy firm that I have worked many years along my career there. And I decided to quit that and to start doing things that I like, and that's the way I decided to write a book to talk about the things that I have experienced in my life, and I think that I have learned some lessons that can be useful to other people to avoid to go to the dark side I was in the last years. And also I decided to start studying things that I'm interested in, like politics.
Mhm.
And now in the last year, sports management, and that's the reason I decided to start the MBA in the Escuela Universitaria Real Madrid.
Okay, amazing. Like you mentioned, you worked like for decades, almost 2 decades in a big consulting firm. But like, how that the life inside felt for you at this time?
But now it's easy to me to answer that question. But when I was working there, when I was at Accenture, that as the consultancy firm that I worked for along 17 years, uh, I wasn't able to really identify what I was feeling. I was so stressed. I work so hard. Since I wake up in the morning, I was checking my email until when I was going to sleep. The last thing that I did was also to check my email. When I started my career there, I left home before 8 a.m. and I came back home more than 9.
Mm.
I gave my whole life to the work. Later, things improved a little, only a little, with also with the possibility to work from home. Uh, but really, my head was always thinking about work, so it was impossible to me to disconnect. But not only to disconnect, also to think about what I was doing with my life.
Mm.
I perfectly knew that I wasn't happy with the life I was taking, but when in the few moments that I had time to think about my life, I thought that people like me, that who I am um, very rational, very compromised with my work, very analytical, very obsessed with really obsessed with the important things for me. I thought that people like me couldn't be happy, or at least so happy like other people around me. For example, my wife, who is people very different to me, but not only my wife. I was when I was out with friends or with family. um I compared to me with them, and I thought, well, Pedro, it's impossible for you to be so happy like them. You have to accept who you are, and and go- and and go ahead. But I was
Mm,
wrong.
mm. Yeah, that's powerful. Like Pedro, many people believe that success brings fulfillment. And in your case, like over the years, you had more success, like from outside, but like, when did you realize, hey, I get more success, but inside me, it's a big struggle. Like the gap was very high between your success outside, because I think everybody was thinking, "Oh, Pedro has an amazing life." But how was it like for you, and when did you notice that?
Well, it had to happen very bad things to realize that, because when you are working so hard, uh, you see like that people can think that you are having success in your life because you have, I don't know, money, you know, not too much money, but enough money to do the things that you want, or to buy a good car, or to buy or to live in a very good place in the city, or having material things. But for me, I despite the people could think that I was having success, if I look to myself, I didn't think that I was a successful man. Uh, I in my book, for example, I when I have reflect on that, but after leaving that kind of job, I write in the book that I had a so poor life that I only had money,
Mm,
and for me, that's not success. Money is not success. It's very clear to me now. In that moment, for me it was impossible to be conscious of that. But I think that's probably for external people. If you have money, you have a good family, a good car, a good house, you have a successful life. But it's quite more complex than that. And for me, it was hard to realize that because I did it when I was a very big issue and problem within the company I work for. When I feel cheated by my boss, my bosses, different bosses, and the people for I was working for. Uh, and it was very hard because in some moment of my career I was very close to being managing director partner, that it's the dream for every people who enters in a consultancy firm. And in terms of money, it's a very big change from being a senior manager, or being managing director. It's a very huge change. So it's an ambitious goal, and I was so close. I was acting as managing director because my boss, who was managing director, left the company. I take on his responsibilities, and I thought that, well, no, I don't. But it's the reality is that I was doing his job, and I was hoping to get the reward of the promotion. And when I didn't receive the promotion, and I feel that even my bosses they didn't tell me the truth. For me, it was very hard, and I didn't understand the reasons, and it was when I exploded.
I understand. Would you say, like looking back, that this was your like helping sign?
Now I can say that I'm happy that this big issue happened to me there, because if you want to be good with yourself, and have good mental health, and lastly being happy, you have to be in a place that it's aligned with your values. And now when I have been reflecting on my life, and I did for the book that uh, I realized that Accenture their culture was very very different to some of my main values. So now I clearly identify that it was good for me that bad things happen, and for me in that moment it was very very difficult situation, and I had mental health problems due to what happened to me there in Accenture and later with other similar jobs. Uh, but I think, and now I have very clear that we don't have to do in places, in companies with a culture that it's different from, or quite different from your values. I think it's going to be very bad for you, despite you in the short term you earn a lot of money. But I realize now that there are in more important things than money, and now I have very clear. But in that moment, for me, it was impossible
Mm,
to to analyze well what was happening to me was the better for my life.
understand. What would you say, let's say, like somebody like you, like 10, 15 years ago, he's starting right now his career. And can you maybe like give some advices to see the early signs of mental health problems? Maybe the problems you ignored. Like how can you find these problems, how they are?
Yeah, I think that's as a clear sign that something is not going well is when you wake up and you don't want to go to your job, or when it's a weekend and on Sunday evening, and you start thinking, well, tomorrow I have to work and go to the work and I feel bad. I think
Mm,
that that's a clear sign that something is not going well, and probably you should start thinking, what are you doing with your life? And another important thing, I think, it's what I said before about the culture of the company. If you feel that you are not comfortable with your bosses, with your colleagues, with the way your corporation works, and how they reward people. For example, I think that in most companies there are an annual performance review and a salary reviews and promotions and that kind of stuff. If you see that what happened in that periods are not are things that are not very aligned with you or are not fair, I think it should be an alert for you.
mm. You mentioned also like the obsession, right? To obsession to perform and these things. Like, how important is obsession also to climb the ladder? Because I think it's also hard to get at this point where everybody wants, but there's only one spot left. And what would you say backwards, like obsession was needed to get there, or is it also possible without?
In my case, I was obsessed with work, but I knew other people in the company that they were not they were not obsessed really with job. But in my case, I didn't know what I was at Accenture, but 2 years ago I discovered that I'm Asperger and kind of autism, and 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 Asperger people are one of their characteristics is that we are obsessed with some things, with things that we
Mm,
like, but also with things that are important to us. So in my case, my almost my whole life was work. So I was obsessed with work. I think that probably it helped me to get to a very high position in the organization, close to being managing director. I think it helped to get that position, but also it helped me to not being well with myself.
Mm,
So I think it's something that can help, but you have to be careful because it also can have a bad impact on your mental health.
mm. How was it like for your family? Did they notice that like you were not there because you say you go in the mornings, come at very late at night? How was the effect on your families and on your surroundings?
Really, they accept that I was in a high position and an important category in an important company, and they were conscious that that implied to work many hours.
Mm,
So I had their support to me to carry that kind of life, working so many hours. Because I think that here, at least here in Spain, it's not. I think it's seen like something good if you work so many hours. I know
mm,
that in other countries it's different. There are a different culture, and I don't like the Spanish culture of being so many hours working in the office. Instead, I tried to change that when I was working at Accenture with my teams, and I think and I think it's possible to change the things, but I think that's some more cultural in Spain, and we need years to change that culture and to be more aligned with, for example, the European culture, to leave the office, I don't know, at 5, for example. In Spain, it's impossible to think leaving the office before 7, for example. Or when I was there, the first years at Accenture, it was, if you get the office, you leave the office until before 8, you were bad seen by everybody.
okay. Yeah, that's crazy. How was it for you? Did you had also shame around stopping or quitting?
I in the I have felt bad, not when I decided to leave Accenture, to talk with my boss, when with one of my bosses, and tell him that after what happened to me I have to quit. In that case, I feel well. I was sure that I was doing the correct thing. But after that, in other jobs, uh, it has been dif- difficult to assume that I was going to quit a job where I was earning so much money.
Mm,
It was in some cases, in some situations, I had very clear that I had to do it, and sometimes my family and my wife, the first time that I began to feel very bad, and I have anxiety, and I was very bad, because I entered in another big consultancy firm, and easy, very easy. In the first months, I realized that that was not for me. After why I have all the things that I had to leave at Accenture, it was in, I don't know, at the third month in a new company with a very big salary, similar to a managing director at Accenture. For my family, it was difficult to accept that I had to quit that, and
mm,
they tried to help me, but saying, Pedro, you have to continue. Things, you are going to change the situation. Things are going to change. You are going to do well here. But it was not that. It was not that. It was that I realized that I wasn't to continue doing the things like at Accenture, like any big consultancy firm do, because all of them are very similar, and the first time I decided to quit that kind of job, it was very, very difficult to to go ahead with that. Uh, but after having very serious mental health problems with this situation, having also difficult conversation with my family and my wife, they understand that I had to do it for my health to be
Mm,
good and or even to be in this world because when the first time that I had suicide thoughts, uh, I didn't feel that I had the whole support with my decisions of my family and my wife, and for me it was very hard to find a reason to continue with my life.
mm,
That's the truth, and and the reason and the thing that gave me uh, or that made me decide to continue in life was my little daughter, because
mm,
I when you are in the hell, in your you are in your mind is in the hell. Only you have bad thoughts. You only see the bad things of everything. Almost good things. You only have eyes to focus on the bad things. So it's hard, and for me it was crucial to identify a reason or a sense to for my life, and it was my daughter. Then when I got better and have my head with more clarity, I realized that my thoughts weren't real, because
mm,
I only thought bad things, but that's not the real situation. But I think that are the effects and the consequences of when you are having a very serious depression. That was my case.
mm. Understand. Which kind of advice you would give somebody who is right now also have like these suicidal thoughts, but he don't have a kid or he don't have a, this strong like
Yeah,
connector.
yeah, that's the thing I have reflecting on that to my book, and what I would say to those people is that the mental health issues, the suicide thoughts and the disease is not forever.
Mm,
You have to try to be a strength, to be conscious that you are having a very, very difficult disease, that it's not like other disease. When you broke an arm or a leg, you have full support of everybody, because they know that you have an accident. Oh, poor
mm,
Pedro, poor whoever. Uh, but when you have a mental health disease, you feel weak. I felt weak because I was I'm not going to lie. I was the first one who thought that people who have mental health issues are weak people. I
mm,
think it's due to the culture of the company where I have worked for so many years. Probably also I studied telecommunications engineer in a very demanding university here in Spain, in Madrid. And what we were learning is that you have to be strong, and whatever is happened to you, you have to continue to get your objectives,
mm,
and to get your goals, and to do what the people are expecting from you.
mm,
So for me, it was very difficult to accept that I was there, I was suffering the disease that even me thought that was only for weak people. So I think it's also important to the people that now are with that kind of thoughts, that they have to be conscious that it's a disease, a very complicated disease, and they have uh, to be or to find something to get and to stay connected to life. In my case, was my daughter, but I'm sure everybody had something. You can be your mother, I don't know, your sister, your brother, whatever, or hobby, or I don't know. But it's important to accept that it's a very, very complicated disease, and it's not going to last forever. It's
Mm,
going to change. O sea, it's going to change. And you are going to improve, despite in that moment you think that it's going forever. But that's not true.
okay, yeah, that's powerful. And I think also, like, it's the weakness is if you like think it's a weakness, but if you change it to the belief that, hey, when I can speak about it, that's the biggest strength, because it's like a normal thing, like that can happen, right? Because of, like, we are living in a very, like, complex structure society, and when we are in certain situation, it's like very possible that it will happen. And the hardest and strongest person are that they can admit. I think that's like the strongest part, because all the people say, okay, no, I'm strong, but inside they're weak. But that's the weakness. But if you can say, hey, sorry, I feel weak, and I'm not feeling well, that's the hardest part. And I think that's also the way to connect with others. How was it for you when you open up? Did you find also other people, they were connecting with you and it helped you because you saw, hey, I'm not
Totally,
alone?
totally agree with that. When I was able to be good and to be happy with myself, I reflect on what happened to me to get to that point, and what I could do to improve or to help the people with who suffer similar things to what I have to suffer with mental health issues. And I realized that in the society there is a very huge gap between what is the reality of the people who suffer that, and how the mental health diseases are perceived by people. Because in my even in my case, but I think it's common because I have been talking with more people who have suffered similar uh, diseases. People around you try to not to talk. In my case, my family recommend me not to express my feelings to my friends when I talk with them, or to anybody. They advise me to talk as less as possible about how I felt, and for me that was very bad for me when I was bad, because it shouldn't be so. So that's not the correct way to affront the situation. You have to talk, because if you talk, you normalize what is happening to you. Because as you said, it's not you are not a weak people for suffer a mental health. I have thought a lot about that, and I'm sure that it's due to the education that we have received about how to manage emotions. Here, at least in Spain, how to manage our sentiments, our emotions. Uh, it's something that are out of the scope of any school, university, or any kind of organization who teach people. And and if we get if we got so bad with depression and even to thinking about suicide ideas, I think it's because we don't have to manage frustration or things that are not good for us, and we start in a loop, in a very bad loop of thoughts, and the result are the depression and that kind of stuff. But it's very related with the emotion and the education that we have received. So it's not you are weak. No, you have received a very bad or you haven't received any education about how to manage your feelings, your emotions, and it can happen to everybody. Everybody can have mental health issues, and we have to normalize that, and and that and and that was the main reason that I decided when I quit my last job in consultancy. I decided to write a book to to tell to everybody my history since when I was a child to now that I'm quite good and having the life that I want. Because I think that there are many things that the society has changed related to mental health, and not only diseases, but because I think we have to prevent that, because I think it's quite easy to do it.
Mm.
Since when we were young, in when you are 3, 4, 5, when you start at the school, when you are a kid, if you start to learn how to manage bad feelings, bad things that happen in your life, because bad things happen in the life of everybody. I think the society could reduce the number of mental health issues and also the number of suicides very significantly. I'm sure. I'm totally sure of that, because we have to learn, and the best way to learn is from the examples. If you see other
Mm.
people, if you see that in your school, your teacher do it, but also very important, I talk also about that in my book. If you see that in your family, your parents, what you have in your family is a tough situation, no, usually, at least in my experience and with the people I talk here in Spain, parents try to not showing bad things to other members of the family, especially to kids. They try to not get to know bad things that could happen to their family, and if they have difficult, I don't know, economic issues or health issues, or that kind of bad things that happen in every family. So if parents don't talk clearly with their sons and daughters about what's happening, how they expect that they do it when they
Mm.
have problems? I think that's the correct way to educate on mental health, and I think it's easy to do it.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, I think also the way is very easy, but I think it's a long process because it starts like at the parents, for example.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like the up has to teach down, because that's like how the, as you say, the role models. Like how can we behave if we never saw people behaving like that?
Totally.
Mm.
Yeah, and kids have to learn that it's life. They're having problems in life, but important problems, because in my case it's very clear, because in my life always have been no good things. Good things. You are a good student. You play football well. When I was young, you can study the most difficult career in Spain with the better salaries. When you finish your career, then you start working everything in my life was good, and with 40 years, when I received a very big bad news, and that I consider that is not a fair situation, I exploded,
Mm.
because I have never in my life have to affront a situation like that. I was so
Mm,
overprotected. I did the things well and I get results. Okay, very good. But with 40 years, when I receive a very, very big uh, unfair situation, I get frustrated and I didn't know how to manage my thoughts and I think that due to the education that I received regarding emotional topics, I think that's the reason that I got so to the point to thinking about suicide.
mm. Pedro, you mentioned like also your book that you start writing a book. Would you say it was also a healing, a way of healing to writing all of your like child memories and now?
Yeah, yeah. Of course, it has been therapeutic for me to write my history. It has helped me a lot also to know who really I am, and also to interpret better the different situations and things that have happened along my whole life. And yeah, and I recommend to everybody who, especially people who are having difficult moments in their lives. It's very therapeutic and helps you to know you better. And I think that when you know to yourself very good, it's the way to build your new life. Because if you get to that point of thinking about that kind of thing, because probably you have to rebuild your life and to get to know yourself very good. I think that it's crucial to change the dynamic.
Mm. What do you hope that your readers will take away from from that book, from your story?
I think there are as a good consultant, strategy consultant, I have tried to get or to give to the readers different points of things that lessons learned of my life. And there I think there are many more, really more that I was expecting, because now that I have many people who have finished reading the book, and they have told me parts of the book that, for example, related with my experience at Accenture, that I thought that it was not going to be so interesting for people. But some, for example, one mother of with a son of around 20 years, she told me, I have learned a lot about the life in a multinational company, in a consultancy company, and for me, it has been very useful to give advice to my son, for example. I
Mm,
didn't write the book for that, but it was a lesson learned that for a mother, that for me it surprised me. But the obvious lessons learned of the book is about what's important on life, that you don't. For me, it's an error to prioritize money and your obligations, or doing the things that people expect from you. For me, it's not the correct way of managing your life. You have to to think about what you want to do with your life, but your life, what your dreams, but your dreams, not the dreams of your family, or trying to get, for example, money to have a stable life with a lot of security. I think that's the main lesson learned of this. And also for me, but I wasn't conscious of that when I started creating the book. For me also, it's very important to give the message that people with Asperger or with autism or any the neurodivergent mindset, it's important to detect it in early stages, and not like in my case when I have more than 40 years, because for me it would have helped me a lot to have the information that I was Asperger. I don't know if when I was a kid, but I don't know when I was 18, or I don't know when I
Mm,
started to work. It would have helped me a lot, because I didn't understand a lot of things of my life. I I I felt apart for other kids when I was young, very young, but also when I start working or when I start going out with friends, I felt different. I felt weird, but I didn't know the reason. And when I was when I identified that I was Asperger, for me, in a second, all the things of my life had sense, and I found an explanation to my whole life, and for all the things that have made me to feel a little weird. So
mm,
for me, I recommend to the schools and to the fathers, that and the parents, that if they identify that his son or daughters felt strange, that they try to go to deep dive to identify if they have some, if they are different. Because for me now, being Asperger is a very big strength for me,
mm,
comparing now in the professional market. I think that people who who has the ability to be very focused on his job, who who have clear goals, ambitious goals, and for me, I think the word, we have Asperger people have superpowers,
mm,
and it's not something that people or parents to be ashamed of having a son or daughter different neuro. Now I learned the word neurodivergent.
mm.
Neurodivergent people, we have strengths and a weakness, like everybody. But it's something. In my case, I'm proud to be Asperger, and so for me, one important message of the book is to try to normalize that. That, what, you are Asperger? Ah, good.
Mm. Yeah, powerful, powerful. Like, Pedro, we have like one last question, and it's always the same for everybody. It's like, when you and I tomorrow would die, which kind of last advice you would give to all of them?
I would say you have to enjoy life. Life is love. That's the most important thing of life. Not money, and not success. Not no. It's to try to have a good life aligned with your values, to try to be good with other people, because that's what gives you happiness. I have earned money, but when I earn more money in my life, is when I has been more unhappy, and with the worst feelings and thoughts of my life. So I have very clear that life is love, and that would be my advice.
Thank you, Pedro.